everyone, and thank you for joining us. Those of you who are tuning in, we're glad to see you here live on the 24 behaviors of the ridden horse in pain. I am Megan Phillips of the Train with Trust Project, and I'm going to take a moment here to just pop up a little bit of PowerPoint because we want to share some information with everyone today. We'll have some websites and some interesting information for you all to jot down. So just going to start sharing my screen. And here we are. I'm Megan Phillips of the Train with Trust Project, and I am joined by Jody Ambrose, also of the Train with Trust Project. And we are co-founders of this nonprofit. We're dedicated to making animal behavior education and information accessible for everyone. And we are happy to be joined today by Matt Manroe of the Mustang Champions. And what we're wanting to highlight today is how Mustangs fit in with English riding disciplines, and let everybody know a little bit about Mustangs, what they have to offer, and what Mustang Champions has to offer. So we thought before we got started, for those of you who may be newer to watching our channel, give a little bit of information, background information about myself and Jody and the Train with Trust Project and our backgrounds, how we came to be. My background is as a zookeeper and animal trainer in the zoo field and in aquariums. And I was working at SeaWorld in San Diego when I was living with Jody in San Diego. And we were actually friends since childhood. So we had a lot in common ever since we were kids. And we started seeing some commonalities between our work, my work in the zoo field and exotic animal training at SeaWorld. And Jody, I'll let you talk about your background and a little bit about how Train with Trust Project came to be.
Sure. I have been a rider my whole life since I was 5 or 6 years old, and primarily in the English disciplines. And since about 12, 13 years old, my focus has been dressage, and I became a full-time dressage trainer. I've also done a little bit of dog training, but my passion is horses, and I work with dressage riders of all ages, all levels, and some event riders as well. And when Megan and I were living together, we started hanging out together, both at Megan's job and my job, and discussing how some of the philosophies from the zoo world and marine mammal training world could apply to the horse world. And so I started using a lot of positive reinforcement. And then I realized that it's much bigger than that. There's a lot of concepts in the zoo world, how they handle wild animals that are that might have fear or aggression, issues with people or with each other. And I just learned a whole new paradigm of looking at behavior and behavior management. And so we started a consulting firm called Train with Trust back in 2007, and we've been doing that respectively in 2 different states. Megan's in Colorado, I'm in California, but we do it together and separately, and with each other, collaborating, because we love to collaborate, and we do it remotely for people all over the world. And then about 3 years ago, we decided that we didn't want to gatekeep this incredible information that's so useful and benefits horses so much. So we actually transitioned a lot of our work into a nonprofit that we call the Train with Trust Project. And so we've been doing that. We have co-produced a film, The 24 Behaviors of the Ridden Horse in Pain. We do a lot of work with Dr. Sue Dyson in the UK on detecting early lameness, and we've incorporated that into our mission, which is to make behavior education and welfare education for all animals more accessible to more people.
Yeah. So, briefly, how we came to know Matt is we met at a film festival where we were showcasing another film that we participated in, Don't Shoot the Zebra Pony, which is a whole other topic. But we came to know Matt there and were really drawn in by his passion and his wife Karen's passion for Mustangs and to promoting their use for English disciplines. They're a little bit more commonly known in the Western world. But from there, Matt, I'll go ahead and have you take over talking a little bit
Oh,
about Mustang
absolutely.
Champions.
So Mustang Champions is about a 3-year-old nonprofit. We received a government grant to produce 2 new format national competitions, one Western discipline and the first of its kind English discipline competition, with the thought that we want to put Mustangs in premier venues, showcasing them at the highest level in order to get more Americans interested in adopting and working in the case of these competitions, competing with Mustangs. The venues were South Point Arena, Las Vegas, and Rolex Stadium at the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington, Kentucky. Beautiful, beautiful venue. If you have not been there, please come join us at some point. We also tried to increase prize money. Top prize is $50,000 to the winner. So we're trying to also get people engaged with these Mustangs and Mustang competitions that might not normally work with a Mustang. We are on our 3rd year of competition. They are upcoming this August. We have moved the Western competition to Fort Worth, to Will Rogers Coliseum, and the English competition will be back at Rolex Stadium. We did a survey of our competitors, and the Rolex is very much liked as a venue. Not everybody gets to compete in that stadium. It's normally an international level competition venue. So people are just very excited to be able to show what they can do in Rolex Stadium.
It's so cool because it really brings my 2 passions together because, being a trainer of dressage and eventing horses, I've been to the Rolex Stadium for the 3-day event that's very famous there every year. And it is a beautiful venue and it's very exciting. And then I got involved with Mustangs several years ago and started training some herds of Mustangs for a nonprofit. And to see these horses in that venue is really exciting for me because I have gained so much respect for these animals. They're really special in a way that I was really unaware until I got the opportunity to work with them. And it's just really exciting to see them being featured in a way that they deserve in my sport.
And I grew up jumping horses as a teenager and had been marketing Mustang events for about 10 years. And this was a dream to be able to create this English discipline event. It is show jumping, dressage, and working equitation, which I was really not very familiar with. It's a bit like a trail class, but in an English saddle. So that has been very interesting, and the reaction has been very positive about that class, even though it's not a classic English class to compete in.
Yeah, I actually take lessons in working eq, and it's one of the most fun things I've ever done. And the Mustangs are so well suited for it. Traditionally, a lot of Iberian horses compete in working equitation.
Right.
Because they are, ranch horses. And these Mustangs, a lot of them have Iberian blood in them. And even the ones that don't, they're just very smart. They're very versatile. They're very handy and very trainable, and which makes them perfect for that discipline. So I love that you include that in the competition because I think probably more than anything, it really highlights their strengths.
Well, in talking about versatility, there have been a couple of competitors that have had 2 horses each compete in both the Western and the English competitions and placed both of their horses in the top 10 this year.
So the
So
same,
that has been really fun to watch.
you mean the same horse did both?
Same horse
Yeah, that's amazing.
in Western and English classes.
That's
So I don't think that's done very often.
no,
You know?
there's not too many top level dressage horses that could go and compete in Western. Now, we also work with the Western Dressage Association of America, and you do see some crossover in that as well between that have done both. But this is on a whole other level, being able to do all these disciplines and do them so well.
Yeah. The other, a lot of people are taking Mustangs and eventing with them.
Yeah,
They really like them very much for that
absolutely.
type of competition. So we've definitely pulled people in from the eventing world
Yeah,
to compete.
I've seen a lot of references to Mustang sport horses, which is a good label because they really are. They're athletic. A lot of times they're much sounder because they've been selectively bred to stay sound and healthy. Not selectively bred by us, but selectively bred by
Right.
to be hardy and there's a whole other level of strength, both mentally and physically in these animals.
They're very good for endurance. They have a lot of stamina. I had the pleasure of filming a group outside of Salt Lake City, and those horses would put in 20 miles between water and forage each and every day. So 40 miles a day.
Sure. Yeah, I
So,
do know a woman local to me who has a upper level dressage Mustang. He has an amazing passage, and she also does endurance with him. It's just you really can't grasp how versatile they are until you see some of these guys that have just taken to everything you try with them.
right. And they tend to be large ponies, mostly. Some herds are larger. So that's also been interesting to kind of watch in the English competition.
Well, and that's an interesting point because, I've been shopping for horses for a couple of clients, and small horses are extremely popular right now. I think there's a lot of small women who are involved in these English disciplines who, have been matched with large warm bloods over the years that are tired of having to push around a giant horse.
Yeah.
And so I've been shopping for, again, the small Iberian horses. That type of horse is just so much in demand. It's really hard to find them, and they're very expensive. And these little guys are a economical option for that. You might have to put in the training because there aren't a whole lot of them on the market that have been trained for these disciplines. But if you're willing to take the time with them, you can really find a lot of diamonds in the rough that are capable of doing all these things for a small fraction of the amount of money that it would cost to get a German riding pony or an Iberian horse that has the same potential.
I don't know if your audience knows it or not, but you can adopt a wild horse for $125. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they really don't understand or have been trained to do gentling, the process, the initial training process with Mustangs. But the Mustang community is very supportive of each other. If anyone was interested in getting a Mustang, there are certainly trainers that could do those, the gentling process with your horse, and then you basically have a green horse to work with. But there are also these trainers that are competing with these Mustangs after the competitions. They are generally up for sale. And some of these horses are really, really well done.
Yeah, and you give
that's another opportunity for people out there in the world.
I know a lot of people are familiar with the competitions that have been around for years where they take them from the wild to the auction in 100 days. but these competitions that you started are longer, correct?
Right. So our adoption eligibility window is October 1 till May 1, with the competitions in August and September. You're at least at the opportunity to have 9 months or more to be able to train your horse. And the other thing that we did was you do not have to be the adopter or owner of the horse in order to compete with it, and you can compete with up to 2 horses. So they're just things that we learned from producing Mustang competitions that we wanted to do differently to help both the competitor but also showcase the Mustangs at a higher level.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of good trainers out there that work with Mustangs and have that expertise. But like you said, anybody can adopt a Mustang for $125 or, sometimes more because they auction them online
Right.
and in person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
From different areas of the country. My interest in Mustangs, as I mentioned before, sort of grew out of the things that I've learned from Megan and other people in the zoo industry, a different perspective on training. And I have had the opportunity to work with a number of horses recently out of holding, and a few that were born after being rounded up in utero. And while doing that, I've had Megan help me develop this our own protocol, our own system, and we have a little graphic here just sort of outlining how we do it. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, but for us, the focus has always been on animal welfare, taking things gradually so that the animal isn't their fight or flight instinct isn't triggered, and really giving them some of that freedom to be themselves back that's taken away when they're rounded up. We take a lot away from them by putting them in captivity, but it's a necessary evil to some extent, and so our methods try to give them as much as we can back of their agency of being themselves. Because like I said, when I started working with these guys, I was just so taken with how special they are and how different they are from the horses that I've had my whole life that are born in captivity. Here's a picture of a mare and 2 foals that I worked with that came from Devil's Garden in California, which is Forest Service land. And we like to do a lot of enrichment, which is one of our big platforms of our nonprofit, is encouraging a more enriched life for horses that are in captivity. It's something that is a practice that they do in zoos for wild animals that are held in captivity, to give them the quality of life and allow them to express their natural behavior. So I have found that enrichment is incredibly fun to do with these guys because they have a drive for play and for investigation. They have a level of curiosity that I haven't ever seen in any other kind of horse. So we teach workshops and work with individual clients on how to include enrichment in your stable management practices. And people can reach out to us if that's something that they're curious about and would like to do more of. Megan, do you want to say anything else about enrichment?
Yeah, I think we have done a recent live with Dr. Dyson where we discussed sort of some of the health angles involved in providing enrichment as well, so people can jump back and check that out as well. And I think providing enriched experiences for Mustangs is also, as we sort of outlined up here in these steps are not necessarily sequential all the time. They can be always used in different orders. It's a very flexible type of approach that we use, but that encouraging natural behavior, um, as Jody, you were discussing, that curiosity is so important. And I think that as part of the gentling process, using enrichment is one of the best tools that people are sometimes unaware of for getting the best out of your horse. And so with any horse that might be shy, fearful, anything like that. So enrichment sometimes sounds like it's something that's just a little bit extra, but we at Train and Trust Project, we really see it differently, that it has value. And again, until you start experimenting with it, it's hard to quantify and discuss how important it can be, but it's really helpful for these horses as they adjust, and it's helpful for non-Mustang horses as well. Cooperative care training is another aspect of um, horse management that Jody and I have really taken a lot of time and effort to expand and help expand into equine care that has its origins in the zoo field, where we train most any animal to the greatest extent possible, given the time and resources for that zoo, to voluntarily participate in medical and husbandry procedures. And so, Jody, if you want to talk about this work that you did with the Mustangs.
So, one of the groups that I work with have adopted horses from public lands that are either, I mentioned, are either in utero or born in holding. And all of them have turned out to be colts. And so they were not gelded. And so while this sanctuary that I worked for had 100 acres, they couldn't just turn ungelded babies out on 100 acres straight from holding, because they would have never been able to catch them again. And then they get old enough and they're going to be able to breed. So they had to be kept separate from the rest of the herd, and they had never been handled before, and they needed to be able to be gelded, so they needed to be able to be handled by the vet. And so they hired me when these guys were fairly young to start teaching them how to be handled by the vet. And they were wild. They didn't want a human anywhere near them. And so I used new techniques to train them for injectable sedation across a barrier, which is how they do it in zoos. They don't go in with the animals, that might be dangerous to them or afraid of them. And so they train them to line up along a barrier, a wall with an opening, and they train them to accept being injected voluntarily. And it's something that if you've never seen it, it might sound kind of crazy and impossible, but they do it with all different species, and it's very doable. And so I was able to get these guys comfortable with lining up and volunteering for their sedation. And over time, we were able to get them to the point where they were super comfortable with anyone doing that. And we were able to sedate them for the vet, get them gelded, and then obviously we did more training for handling so that they could be caught later, but they ended up out in the herd with the other horses on 100 acres, being wild horses like they were, born to be. And so we do a lot of teaching people, and it's useful for horses in captivity as well. Anybody who has horses has struggled to give oral meds, or seen a horse that's afraid of needles, or had a horse that's difficult for the shoer, or any of those things. There are ways to, it doesn't have to be across a barrier. It can be for what's called free contact, but it's about getting the horse's cooperation, getting the horse on board with what you're doing rather than just forcing it on them. So not using physical restraint, not using as much chemical restraint, sedation to get things done, but actually letting the horse choose it.
Yeah, and I think again, it's part of a whole basket of tools, and there's a time and a place where other tools might be just as viable or more viable, and there's a time and a place where this is very viable. And with Mustangs, and bringing an animal in from its sort of more wild habitat, gaining their trust and is a huge thing, but also it's very relationship building to do all of this stuff. So we're hugely into that. And then we had just a quick video here. Maybe we don't. I had a feeling it didn't transfer when we put it in Drive, but that's okay. You can basically see the process going on there. Another thing that we focus a lot on is helping people really understand equine body language, which can be something particularly important as one adopts a Mustang, is really understanding what's going on for them and how to read the situation and work with it. And I don't know, Jody, if you wanted to talk about these two real quick.
This is a mare. We had two sets of mares and foals that were adopted at the same time, and they were in together. So this is an interesting dynamic with the mother of one baby reacting to the other mother's baby. He really wanted to play with the other foal, and she was. We have a video sequence of this. We didn't put in the presentation, but it's really fun to watch their dynamic, because it's something that we don't see with domestic horses very often. We don't see a lot of interactions between horses of different ages, and these guys are so expressive. Particularly the babies were just so incredibly engaged and expressive, and so I love using them as examples. But she did some step parenting that was really fun to watch.
Well, and their social skills are just so great. Because they've had such an opportunity to live in this natural setting with their families. And so that's what's really cool, is that these foals were playing, and then she was sitting there watching and fine with it. And then things started just getting a little too rambunctious. And this is when Monday gets a little talking to. So, we wanted to again go back and highlight, Matt, if you want to talk again a little bit about how people can explore different, because you have these competitions online for people to watch if they're not able to make it. Tell a little bit more about how people can look forward to participating in your events.
Yes, we do stream our events, both with Equine Network and Equus Television. I have started a podcast series trying to make it to where you can meet virtually some of these trainers and their points of view and their stories with Mustangs. There are some extremely talented people out there that are participating in our competitions. Come to one of our events. The finals for the $50,000 prize are ticketed events. We're also doing Mustang Magic at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo the end of January. Come to Will Rogers Coliseum, watch the competition, and bid to own a Mustang. All the competition horses will be auctioned off at the end of our finals. So come to Fort Worth.
And the podcast is available on all the major platforms?
They are. I tend to go to YouTube, but it's Equus Radio Network is the channel. You can also come to MustangChampions.org, our website. You can learn about all the competitions and what we are doing today to try to help the government get Mustangs that have been gathered, get them into private care.
This is great. And we will share all of this stuff on our page as well. We'll share it down in the comments. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us via our socials. You can reach out to Matt. He's a very approachable guy.
Thank you.
We did want to go ahead and just let everybody know, in case you missed the end of our last talk, that we do have another Facebook Live coming up with Dr. Sue Dyson next month. So in December, just about a month from today, probably, if I remember correctly what day it is.
Right.
We have talked about equine gastric ulcers previously, so we wanted to bring an update because there's some really compelling new information about ulcers in horses that Dr. Dyson wanted to share. And as always, again, we are a nonprofit, and so if you feel compelled to provide a donation because you want to see more of our education happening and more resources available, feel free to donate to us anytime. And I want to go ahead and give a big thank you to Matt for joining us today to talk about Mustang Champions and all the cool stuff going on with Mustangs. We're just really so pleased that this is working out so well, and we really hope that we've sparked some interest in some of our viewers for the amazing capabilities that Mustangs have.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty fun.
thanks for joining us.
We heard about this idea when it was just a
An idea.
pretty
That's
cool to have
true.
for a seat to see it actually become a reality.
Yeah.
We really are in awe of how you have manifested this into the world.
Well, and it's just such an honor. I mean, the horses need all of our resources and attention. And if you don't know much about Mustangs, take some time.
Yeah, we
Go
actually
online.
done some Mustang education presentations for some zoo organizations, and if anybody wants to know more, they can get in touch with us, and we actually do offer sort of a comprehensive overview. If you want to have us speak to your organization, we can help your group or private individuals really understand the complexity of this situation, because it is a very complicated and intricate and political topic that I think American citizens have a responsibility to know about, because it's our ecosystem.
Well, and there are horses. As American taxpayers, we own a lot of horses. There are over 60,000 on the range, and just under 60,000 that are in some form of holding.
Yep.
So it's a lot.
Yep.
But they are your horses, so yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot, and it is a very nuanced conversation. But the bottom line is that there are a lot of horses in holding that are extremely capable and amazing individual animals, each and every one of them, and they can be a great companion horse. They can be a great horse to ride, a great partner for competition. So we're so excited to have shared this information, and we'll look forward to checking back in with you maybe
Yeah.
as we get closer to the classic, or see how things are going. So
Okay.
thanks so much for joining us, and
Thank you.
we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.